topic of our satsang today is the secret of right action. So we are constantly acting in the world, aren't we, all the time? But do we really know the right way to act always? The what is wrong action? And in every situation, what is the right way to do things? Let me begin with a story from the Bible. There are these two sisters, Mary and Martha. And in their home, Jesus Christ comes. He's just sitting with them and sharing teachings with his disciples. And Martha is very busy because there are people around in the house. She's busy cooking, serving them, helping them. And Mary, her sister, what does she do? She just sits at the feet of Jesus Christ and she's just absorbing that love, the wisdom, the teachings that are flowing from Christ. And as you would realize, my sister would do the same. Martha is now irritated that I'm doing all the work and she's just sitting there and doing nothing, you know. And she's like, she tells Christ, why don't you tell her something? Tell her. And she complains that tell her to help me with all of this. And Christ just says gently, Martha, Martha, you are just too troubled and too filled with the cares of the world. Mary has chosen the right thing to do, and this will never go away from her. So, on the face of it, what would we consider? Both are doing, good work. She is serving her guru, she's serving God, she's thinking about all of those people in her home. And what about Mary? She also, we appreciate meditation, prayer, listening to the teachings of the Guru. So she is also doing, proper work. But this is just the dilemma also of devotees on the path, isn't it? Do we do more seva? Do we do more work for the Guru? Or do we meditate and sit more in prayer and, just the whole day enjoy yourself listening to his teachings? What is the right way? In the worldly perspective, probably we are looking for material results all the time, right? So I worked this much, so many people came, so many people benefited, so that material result feels right to us. So most of the time we feel person who's working is probably right. Even Yogananda went through that. If you all read Autobiography of a Yogi, before he found his guru, Swami Yukteswarji, whose birthday happened to be yesterday, by the way. So before he found his true master, he went into an hermitage in Banaras, and whenever he would try to meditate, all the other ashram inmates would be like, क्या पूरा टाइम मेडिटेट करते रहते हो, कम एंड डू योर ड्यूटीज़, यू आर जस्ट इग्नोरिंग योर ड्यूटीज़, भगवान मिल जाएंगे, एक दिन में संत नहीं बन जाओगे, एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट, सो ही फाउंड इट वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू मेडिटेट देयर. And this is how the world thinks about meditation and prayer. But what does the teaching say? The real teaching is that whatever work we may do, attitude is what is important. So once Yogananda is cooking in his kitchen, his private kitchen, and there's a lady disciple sitting outside, and she's just watching him, and the thought comes to her idly that, oh, let me help Guru, I can do something, I'm just doing nothing here. So she gets up and she decides that Yogananda, as he's cooking, she starts to clean the dishes that he's dirtying. So she keeps doing that. But the more she does, she realizes suddenly more and more dishes start to get dirty. And more, and she keeps cleaning quicker and quicker, and he starts dirtying them faster and faster. And then she's like, finally, oh my God, okay, let me just sit now. When he finishes completely, then I will go and clean. And then she sits down. And then she sees Master, suddenly he has a small smile on his face. He's continuing with his cooking. And his cooking becomes tidier and tidier and cleaner. And he's not dirtying things anymore. So she reflects on this and she realizes that I just did work for the heck of doing work, mindlessly, recklessly, just with restlessness, without any thought given to it properly, instead of doing it from my centeredness and inner calmness. So that is what the master wanted to teach her, that never give up your inner peace. Always work from your inner center of calmness. And then every action becomes a right action, right? Also, in an action, not only the attitude, but also the consciousness from where we do action is, important. Again, there was a lady disciple of Yogananji who used to do a lot of work. And once Yogananji tells her that, you do too much work. You must stop doing so much work. So she says, oh, okay, he wants me to do less work. So she decides after, a couple of days, tries to reduce her work. As soon as she tries to reduce her work, what happens? Yogananji comes, gives her even more work. And she's like, in her mind, you told me to work less. You're giving me more, but since you're the guru, I'll listen. And she does more work. Then again, she tries to, reduce the work, delegate or whatever she must be doing with it. So she does that. The minute she does that, he gives her even more work. And this goes on and on and on. And she says, this is very strange. And she decides to go and meditate on this. What's really happening here? And then she realizes, and then she comes back to Master and she says, Yogananji, what if I call my work seva? And then he smiles and he says, yeah, now you have understood. So the consciousness with which we do work is very important. Are we doing it from that ego consciousness? I'm doing the work. If I don't do it, nothing will work in this ashram. If I don't do, all of these people will suffer. I, for personal motive, for maybe appreciation also, for recognition, for money, fame. We do things for personal motives. Is that why we are doing work? Or are we doing it through a consciousness of the soul consciousness, where we surrender completely to the Guru, right? Now you work through me. I am doing for only because it benefits your disciples, right? And I completely surrender. And you, anyway, matlab, I can't even do it for your disciples. It is you working through me without that sense of doership. And that becomes, soul consciousness. And why is that important? It's such a big concept, that's why I should, welfare of others. What is it in me? What is there for me in that? But it makes practical sense also. Because when we work from ego consciousness for personal motives, aren't we always worried? एक घबराहट रहती है, fear, agitation, restlessness. होएगा कि नहीं होएगा? कैसे होएगा? क्या होएगा? It's like literally, if you go for your personal work and apply for a visa to the US embassy, what happens? 4 दिन से प्रेस करके कपड़े तैयार कर रहे हैं, literally. Yeah. So what happens? And suppose we go for some other work, maybe even the government's work, we don't care, it's like we are doing for the good of the country. So personal motive gives you a certain amount of fear and restlessness, and that focus wavers. What about when we work from soul awareness? Then actually the ego awareness starts to dissolve. The idea of ego, the idea of a body dissolves. Why? Because when we connect that I am just an instrument, I'm not the doer. You are working through me. God, Guru, you're working through me. Then what are we really doing? We are actually bypassing this little body which has limited power and strength. And we are connecting to this ocean of power and strength. Not even ocean, not one Pacific Ocean. It's like everything. We are connecting to everything that is. So, when we do that, imagine the power that flows through to do work. When we come back from office, at least the people who work, come back and you're like, थैला इधर डाला, टीवी का रिमोट इधर से उठाया, पड़ गए, अब हम कहीं नहीं हिलने वाले. When we do the same work in the ashram, how many people have been working for the spiritual fair? Right? What happens to us? Yeah. What happens to us? Many of us come from morning to night, set up, take down, remember? And what happens at the end of it? Nobody wants to leave. Right? Everybody is so uplifted, so energetic. Like, we will finish everything and go, then we will have the last pizza and Coke, and then only If Sachi says, now go, then we will go, So what is happening here? Are we working for ourselves or are we working for the Guru? That is just the difference, right? So that is what creates the right action, the attitude and the consciousness in which we work. In fact, we could be doing any action. Sometimes, we think we should do this charity, then only it's the right thing to do. But when we do action with the right consciousness, with the right attitude, then what is right action? The masters have defined that takes away our, ego bondage, that takes away our karma. Whenever we do that, there is no karmic activity involved. Now, there was this great Indian Buddhist teacher, Bodhidharma, who brought Zen Buddhism to China. He goes there and he meets the emperor. Now, this emperor is very interested in spreading the dharma, so he has made many monasteries, many nunneries, done a lot of good work. And he's a good human being, so he's not that proud, but still, So he recites this all to Bodhidharma when he reaches, and he says, Master, I have done so much to spread Buddha's dharma here. What? What place will I get? How much merit have I earned? So he said, oh, all of this? For all of this you will burn in the lowest hell. And he's an emperor. Yeah? And this guy is like looking like a fakir, And he's like, what? What are you even saying? But what did Bodhidharma mean? That he did all of this work, but he was just attached with his ego to this work. Ye maine kiya hai for Buddha or for the Dharma, right? He was just attached and probably had maybe that need for recognition and that fame and that pride. So whatever we do does not matter. The attitude and the consciousness matters. And if we remember that always, then every action which we do in that right attitude can actually take us towards liberation and soul freedom. Thank you.
When we are asked to share in this way and reflect on certain topics, it's so much helpful because otherwise we don't really sit and think on those things. And when we sit and think on those things, a lot of things get clearer and we start realizing the importance of a lot of things in that way. Vasudha emphasized again and again that the consciousness and the attitude behind everything is very, very important. Now, what does that mean actually? What does it mean having that right consciousness and right attitude? Paramhansa Yogananda says that there are two ways of approaching God realization. He says one is the outer way and one is the inner way. Now, the inner way, we all know, it's through meditation. But the outer way, he says, it is through right action by loving and serving mankind with the consciousness centered in God. Now, when what it means in other way is that whenever we do anything, we feel that we are doing to please God. We feel that we are doing for the divine in others, in other people, and for creation. We feel that we are, and better still is to feel that we are not even doing it, it is God doing through us. And Yogananda ji says when we do with this consciousness, that it is God doing through us when we are walking, talking, speaking, eating, everything that we do, that we remove ourselves, God is doing through us, and God is doing also to serve the God in the other person. That is the right consciousness and attitude. And when we do that eddy work with that kind of right consciousness, Yogananda ji says it is one of the ways to realize God. Then God reveals himself to us. So he says it is not only meditation, but every act done in that right consciousness. And this is the right consciousness. Because two things are happening here now when we reflect it. One thing what is happening is when we are always in the thought that God is doing through this form whatever it is doing and to please and serve the God in other people, we are always attuned to God. Our mind is always fixed there. So we are not only tuning into God when we are in meditation, we are tuning into God in every moment, doing everything that we are doing, even the regular brushing, teething, and everything that we are doing. Our consciousness is always focused in God. And because our consciousness is focused in God, that is why it brings us closer to God and we realize God. And Yogananda ji also says, it is also the same thing with money. Okay, let me see. The other thing what we need, the other thing that is happening here. Now, when we always think that it is God doing through this form and also God serving the God in the other one, then our every action, it cannot be anything but helpful and beneficial. We cannot think it in a selfish way. And I really invite you now, just for a moment, close your eyes, everyone. And even at your workplace or business thing or whatever work you are doing, feel, you remove yourself for a moment. Feel that it is God doing through you that work, and it is to serve and please the God in that other person that you're working towards or other people that you're working for. Just for a moment, feel that and remove yourself. Gently, let's open the eyes. Now, when you have felt that, didn't your state of mind change? Didn't your consciousness change? Didn't the feeling behind that work, that doing, change? Now that is the right consciousness, and that is what these masters are telling us. And when we do anything with that consciousness, then only it becomes service. That is the meaning of service. It has to be beneficial and helpful to the other person that we're doing, and then it becomes a service, and that is the right consciousness. So Yogananda ji says here that the motive behind any action that you do, that decides whether it is right or wrong. The consciousness, the motive behind it. And Yogananda ji also says, and right now we have the situations, he says that, okay, now a person, just kills another person one fine day. And of course, he's going to be put into prison and he's going to be punished. But now if one person who is on the battlefield and is killing other people to defend the country, to protect the country, then that person is given medals and awards for doing that. So the motive behind it decides your work is helpful or not helpful, and that decides the consciousness of the work. There was one incident that Swamiji says that in Swamiji's life, of course, it is a lot of times it has happened, and also in our lives, if we reflect, we will see. So once a person came to Swami Kriyananda, and that time Swami Kriyananda, who's the direct disciple of Paramhansa Yogananda, as you all know, he was starting this Ananda. Ananda had not really happened. And he needed a lot of funds. He needed people to come and help. And this person comes and he tells him that I have about, I think, $200,000, and I am thinking of changing base. So do you think it is beneficial, it is good for me to come to Ananda, and wherever I will be, I'm going to deposit that money or help, give that money, spend that money. And so is it helpful for me to come to Ananda, or, or I'm also thinking of going to India and settling down there. So what should I do? He was in two minds. And Swami Kriyananda, though he knew if he needed these people and he needed the money, and he knew if that person comes and joins Ananda, it'll be very, very good for him. But he really tuned into that what is beneficial for that person, what is going to serve that person, right. And so he told him that it is good for you to go to India. And so in this example also we see that when Swamiji acted or gave that advice, it was from a complete inner freedom. There was no, even Ananda, he was not attached to Ananda. He was making Ananda just to do God's work as a place to, to do God's work and serve other people. So there was no personal attachment to it. And another secret to right action, and this is a very, very important secret, is that to do every act without that inner attachment or bondage. That is why the masters say that whenever, never act as per a habit. Never let anything become a habit or a tendency or just acting out of some expectation to get something in return in that way. And Yogananda ji again and again says that if you feel something is becoming a habit, try to break it then and there. He says, some people think that, I cannot live without eating meat 3 times a day. And there are other people also who think that, if I don't have salads every day, I will become ill. Now, both sides, is bondage. And he says, like, some people, of course, also say, feels that if I, and ye to maine bahut dekha hai, if I don't sleep on my own bed, soft and nice, I won't get sleep. And Yogananda ji says, make sure you sleep on the floor sometimes and make yourself comfortable on the floor. So do those things, break every habit, he says, because every habit in a subtle way is a bondage. And when we are bonded from within, we will never ever be able to act wisely. And only a wise action, any action guided by wisdom, has to come from inner freedom. And only actions guided by wisdom will take us to God. That is the only way, and that is only the right action. There is one more very important thing that Paramhansa Yogananda says. And he says, calmness is the parent of right action. Vasudha also says that always, we should act from that inner calmness. Now, why is that inner calmness so important? Because only when we are able to calm ourselves, that means we are able to control our feelings, our chitta. Only then we are completely free inside. And also, calmness, if you all know, is one of the 8 qualities of God, which Yogananda says. So if you have established that calmness inside, it means that you have established God within yourself. And then whatever you are doing with keeping that calmness, it will be always wisdom guided. It will not be coming from any compulsion, because that is then being guided by God, and that is then being as God doing that work. God is the doer in that work when we're acting from that inner calmness. And when I was new in Ananda, a lot of times I used to hear everyone say that do the divine will, divine will. Mujhe samjhe hi na ye divine will, how to tune into divine will. And people just say divine will. Now what is divine will? You tune into, meditate and see what is the divine will. Now I don't know what is divine will, and I don't know how to even tune into divine will. But it was only later I understood that when we do anything, not by compulsion of habit and tendency, but guided by wisdom, and which is beneficial not only for us, but for the others, then that is divine will, and beneficial for the soul. That is divine will. Doing everything from guidance, guided by wisdom, and beneficial for the soul, that is divine will. And that is only the right action that we're supposed to do, and that can take us to God realization. God reveals himself to us when we act rightly in this world.